There are but few moments in life that will call our very existence into question. These moments are the ones that take our breath away and sometimes breathe life into us. Follow me as we venture down history's memory lane with some of our very own. These people have lived through turbulent times, yet are stronger because of it. Enjoy the presentation. Remember, educate, celebrate Black History Month. It's a good year. What do you remember was happening in America at the time when you were growing up?
Wow. The civil rights movement was going on at that time, as I recall. President Kennedy was killed shortly after when I was quite young. And by the time I was 10, just almost 10, MLK Jr. was killed.
Wow. How did America react after Martin Luther King was killed?
Uh, we took to the streets. It was a terrible. I remember that there were riots in many of the major cities because of that, and a great loss for our community because he was a leader who perhaps today is still quite misunderstood, but a leader indeed.
And I had a friend was in 1962, I think, Martin Luther King march. I went to the march.
Wow.
I went to the march and as boys, we were sitting in the back of the church and the preacher said, he was preaching, oh, you slap one cheek, turn the other one. So we said, we ain't turn the other cheek, we'll go. When we looking for something different, when we got it, we saw, I ain't never seen so many black people in my life. The first black cop I saw was in Washington, D.C. at the Freedom March.
Wow.
Heard Haley Jackson sang and brought tears in everybody's eyes.
Wow.
That was my growing up.
Like anybody, I would like to live a long life. Longevity has its place. But I'm not concerned about that now. I just want to do God's will. And He's allowed me to go up to the mountain. And I've looked over and I've seen the promised land. I may not get there with you, but I want you to know tonight that we as a people will get to the promised land. So I'm happy tonight. I'm not worried about anything.
Eva Jewel Williams and
My name is Leonard Lee Williams.
Thank you so much. And what year were you guys born in?
I was born in 1951.
Okay.
I was born in 1947.
Okay. And if you can remember, I know you said you do remember, Miss Eva. What was happening while you were growing up? First off, where did you grow up at?
I grew up in Atlanta, Georgia.
And what was happening in Atlanta at the time?
In Atlanta, when I was born, there was segregation. We went to segregated schools. I witnessed colored and white water fountains, colored and white bathrooms, and the condition of them were deplorable. I witnessed when we traveled that we couldn't go to hotels. My father had problems in finding gas. We had to go to the back of restaurants.
Although the Civil Rights Act was signed in 1964, Black Americans and white Americans were still not considered equal to each other. They were still required to use separate facilities, no matter the circumstances. What do you remember historically, Pastor Jackson, when you were growing up?
Well, growing up, I grew up in a section of Norfolk called Berkeley, and during that time, Berkeley was a predominantly black, segregated rather neighborhood. The blacks lived on one side, and the whites lived on the other side. The blacks went to Abraham Lincoln Elementary School, and the whites went to Robert Gatewood School, which was right around the corner from me. And I had to walk quite a distance to go to Abraham Lincoln. But basically, it was a segregated neighborhood. We had our own black Ritz Theater, our movie theater, and on the other end, there was a theater that the whites went to. also basically segregated schools, and we rode the bus to Booker T. Washington High School, was the school that all of the blacks went to at that time in the city of Norfolk. We all went to that high school. And I also attended Ruffiner Junior High School.
Booker T. Washington High School dates back to 1911. During this time, it became Virginia's first accredited public high school for African American students.
Well, a lot of things were going on at that time, if not with me, with my family. During that time, let me say it like this. My first experience, if I can use that word, with discrimination came when I was 6 years old.
Wow.
My father had bought 2 plots of land in Portsmouth on a dead-end street because it was 7 kids in the family. I'm number 5. And where we lived, there was a ditch and a fence, and some trees had been planted. Blacks lived on one side, and whites lived on the other side. And I regularly played with a little girl, a white girl, who lived right across the fence from my house. But when we were playing one day, she came over and told me that she couldn't play with me anymore. And I couldn't figure that out. I said, why? She said, because my mother said that you're colored, so I can't play with you anymore. So she went home and I ran in the house, and I just figured it must be something really, really bad if my friend couldn't play with me. And I told Mom that she said she couldn't play with me anymore because I was colored. And I said, what is colored? So that was a hurtful time because I lost a friend because of my skin color. She didn't understand it either, but that was what her mother said. So that was my first experience with that.
Segregation took its toll on all those engulfed within it. Although blacks were told they were not equal to their white counterparts, this did not stop them from fighting for their equal rights, amongst others. Any moments of segregation that you have personally experienced?
Yes, I can remember some. In '54 was when the Brown versus Board of Education decision was passed, which supposedly ended separate but equal. Right. Ironic to me is when that was handed down, the Supreme Court said it should be changed with all deliberate speed. That was in their ruling, all deliberate speed. And yet, it really didn't happen until I was going to junior high school.
Wow.
That's when busing started in Norfolk, about the time I went to junior high school. And before that, we had one high school, Booker T. Washington. Every area had one black high school, just like we had one black hospital. And I can remember when that happened. And we got to go to what had been a white school and ran into racism kind of head on.
Just as Bishop Rowson stated, before segregation was ruled unconstitutional, the only high school for African Americans was Booker T. Washington High School. After segregation ended, schools began to allow all students to attend.
We went through a whole lot. Sometimes I had to go to the bathroom as a child and go to a department store, and they would just say that the bathroom's out of order. And my mother was not a gentle kind of person. She just said, well, I let her pee right here. And so they would eventually let us go. But like I say, everything that we had to do was not in good condition.
In the family, we didn't really talk about race issues. My parents just raised us a particular way. Like I said, it was 7 children in the family. There were 4 boys and 3 girls. And like I said, I'm number 5. We couldn't go out alone. We had to take one of our siblings with us.
And actually, when I started teaching in the city of Norfolk in 1970, 1971, I believe, and my starting salary was $7,000 a year. Still
Wow.
have my contract. And at that time, when I started teaching, I wore a fro. Uh, there's a picture in here of that fro. But I had a large red, because my natural hair was red afro. And I recall an experience with my department chairman. He wasn't too particular about my hairstyle, and he told me to change it. And of course, I was very radical. I didn't change it. As a matter of fact, the next day when I came back to school, I had it blown out bigger. And I never heard anything else from him about that. But this was the time and era that I started teaching in the city of Norfolk. The schools had just integrated. And my first assignment was Blair Middle School.
Wow.
And I ran into a lot of prejudice situations over there, because blacks had just started attending that school.
In this picture, Pastor Annie is on the right.
What does it feel like to be black? Well, right now it feels good on some ends. It doesn't feel so good on other ends. It feels proud. It feels celebrated, but at the same time, it feels disrespected and it feels discounted.
What do you think, Kendrick?
Kind of piggybacking off of what Jamar is saying. Right now, in this day and age, it's a little bit of everything. I've always been proud to be black, even knowing before my time what we've been through. I've always been proud to be black, but like you said, happy time, sad time, but just still right now in this day and age, just still know it's a long ways to go. Being black.
Nala, can you tell us what it means to be black today to you?
Yes, other people might think I'm a downfall, but to me, to be black is this. I love my skin color, I love my culture, I have black girl magic, I have a bondage with earth, I can run out in the sun all day barefoot, my hair is wild and free, and if you took it out, it would just be a big puff. I'm confident, the night sky is black and beautiful. That refers to my skin color and my beauty, and it is huge, which is referring to my power, and that is what it means to me to be black.
I grew up in Holland, Virginia.
And what was that like for you?
On the farm, and coming up on the farm was black was on one side, white was on the other side, and we couldn't play with the white kids, and they didn't play with us. And I went to all black school, and our teachers pushed us to be above everything else. On off days, like holidays, we had to write an English paper or do something in history. We didn't have no free time. The black teacher really prepared us for the future.
Perhaps Michelle Obama said it best. When they go low, we go high. This quote is perfect to represent this era. Students were always striving to be better, striving to learn, striving to be educated, striving to be knowledgeable in a world that wasn't made for them. However, as Michelle Obama stated, we always rise. What school did you go to?
I went to what used to be Campostella Junior High and then Lake Taylor High School. By the time I went to high school, then it was segregation had ended and so-called integration had begun.
But I know that a lot of people weren't happy to see African American or black students in the building, right?
Oh, no. As a matter of fact, in Norfolk, when it happened, Norfolk was one school system that actually closed down.
Wow.
When the ruling was handed down.
Wow.
And it gave birth to a number of private schools, those of the majority culture who decided their children would not go to school with those of color and started their own schools.
Wow.
Or moved to other places and really inflated the suburbs at that time.
Believe it or not, we are still fighting racial disparities in public schools.
My oldest brother he was the first black to go to Virginia Tech. And he graduated electrical engineering. He also went to University of Virginia. He received his law degree there. So he had his own practice and all of that. Plus, he went in the Air Force. He was he was a pilot in the Air Force. And he flew missions over in Vietnam. When it comes to him, and we call it now Virginia Tech. It was called Virginia Polytech Institute back there. He wouldn't tell or talk about what happened to him on campus because he was fearful that my dad would pull him off of the campus. So he wouldn't talk about it, wouldn't tell you things. But later on, after graduation and later in years, one of the college officials wrote a letter about him. When he first went there, he couldn't stay on campus. They found a room for him in someone's home. So he had to walk to campus. They never had transportation for him. Finally, they put him on campus in a dorm. He was the only one in the dorm because whites wouldn't want to stay in there with him. Finally, they put him in a dorm or filled that dorm with other students that were not of the same race. They would do things like switch the knobs on the shower. They would take his books and pour coffee in them. He would do things like that, but he wouldn't tell any of that while he was in college.
When you are taught racism, you practice racism. And this is exactly what happened during this time period.
I remember growing up when we would go to downtown Norfolk. To me, well, just the fact that we had to use a certain restroom. It had blacks only, whites had theirs, we had ours. And also drinking from the water fountain, specific water fountains. And see, things like that in today's society, you don't hear of that.
Right.
So when I see the prejudices, some of those same prejudices existing in today's society, it really bothers me because it shouldn't be that way. And we marched and we protested to stop this discrimination, but
right.
Basically it still exists.
Mm-hmm.
It does.
Yeah.
It does.
Okay, can you guys recount a time when you may have been discriminated against growing up, or even more recently, just in this time? Can you remember a time when you may have been discriminated against?
Yeah, when I was working in customer service at a certain store, a white man brought something in to be returned, and I asked him, had you opened it? And he pretty much said, no. If you know, what he said, if you notice the top is not open. If you were smart enough, you would have known that. So.
Do you think he said that because you were black or because he assumed you weren't smart?
I think it was a little bit of both. To know the interactions between black and white people in customer service would help inform that particular instance.
What college did you two go to?
I came to Virginia by going to Norfolk State. And my mother, my father was from Georgia, my mother's from New Jersey. So we would take a trip every summer to see Grandma. And on one trip, we went by Norfolk State. I didn't know anything about it, but my father had a friend that was head of the music department, and she tested me, and I got full scholarship to Norfolk State. And I met him my second year, and rest is history.
Wow, that is amazing.
Norfolk State University was founded on September 18, 1935. It is a historically black university located in Norfolk, Virginia.
Got out in '68. I was in the Army when Martin Luther King got assassinated. They wouldn't let nobody leave the base in 1968. And I got out in '70 and came to Norfolk State. We're going back to Allen University. To my best friend, one of my best friends told me, say, I want you to meet this girl, man. So I know what you like. I know you like her nice and everything. I said, oh yeah. So I stayed for a while. So I stayed for 2 weeks. So like the end of the third week, I said, well, if she ain't here by Saturday morning, I said, I'm sorry, I'm gone. But I was in Brown's Hall, messing around, and I saw this girl come out in this pretty outfit, and I said, wow, I hope that's her. And I heard him down the hall say, Pancake Baby, Georgia Peach. I said, man, I hope he don't bring that back here I don't want to see. And he brought her back, and that's history. I met her, didn't go nowhere, stayed with him, and we got married.
Oh, wow.
Yes, yes,
And,
yes.
In 20 years, if you could predict the future, what do you think will be happening in America in 20 years from now?
Wow. I wish you told me. I just put my crystal ball away. But I think that Richard Pryor, some years ago, though he's not called a prophet, perhaps a social one, Richard Pryor said, and forgive me for using the N-word that was buried some time ago by the NAACP. Richard Pryor said there were some people coming here who were the new N's. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yes.
And they are now, and I have nothing against them, they are now the majority minority.
Wow.
And I think in 20 years, they will be even more of the majority minority. And that is those who have Hispanic backgrounds.
Wow.
As opposed to the so-called African American in this country.
Wow.
I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that, not at all.
Right.
I'm just saying that as a people, I think we need to do more and learn to do more than saying we shall overcome and be happy that Obama was president for 2 terms.
In order to live in a peaceful society.
Yes.
I believe, Dr. Martin Luther King, I believe in his motto and what he said to, fight for what you want, be the best that you can be, and don't stop. Don't give up. Just, be radical about it. Because in this world, in this society, it bothers me to see open racism just coming about again, like a new rebirth of it, where people are just open with it. And I fought then, and I'll get out there now, even at this age, because I have children, grandchildren, great-grandchildren, and I don't want to see them be victimized in this society by racism.
I would tell them to take more pride in themselves, much more pride in themselves. I would tell them, if I can put it this way, look like you care about yourself. Just don't go around any kind of way. I mean, mixing in with the crowd, but carry yourself with more respect. I think there is such a large loss of respect for oneself and for others.
I would say, especially in this day and age, especially now with social media going on the way that is. I mean, 3 of us here in this room, growing up, for us, we didn't have that same opportunity. I mean, we kind of came up as social media was happening. So, I mean, we're seeing it now with a lot of young black comedians, artists, taking advantage of that. And I would just say to just everyone in our age group, just be smart. I've always been the type to, I've never, I won't say never, but 9 times out of 10, I never gave in to peer pressure. I was always my own person, raised in a good household, both parents. So I always knew right from wrong. And I would just say, be smart, know who you are, don't give in to peer pressure, and just remember that first, that you're black in America. So we already have to do more than everyone else. And I don't always like to make that seem like it's an excuse or anything like that, but it's a fact, and you just always have to remember that first and just be smart.
Nyla, are you trying to change the world, Nyla?
Yes.
How are you going to change the world?
I'm going to change the world with my singing, because I want it to be a better place, and I think I can get to the heart with my voice.
Do whatever you have to do to leave your mark on the world. Read all you can read, write all you can write, study all you can study, learn different languages, appreciate different cultures other than your own, travel widely, explore the world, explore your own country, learn history, be, like he said, be smart in terms of being aware. I'm saying be smart in terms of academically and scholarly, because nobody can question or debate intelligence. I mean, it just is what it is. Be as smart as you can be, go as far as you want to go, and don't ever let anybody tell you that because you're black that you cannot do something, because you're a woman or because you're young or whatever kind of hindrance they try to place on you. Defy all of that as black as you can.
And if you need a prime example, just YouTube my girl Angela Rye. Black woman, smart as she can be, and I just love seeing her make those white men turn their noses up.
And don't be
pisses them off.
And don't apologize for your problems.
Right. Don't non-apologize.
You like to eat fried chicken and the grease run down your face? Eat it like you black. You like red Kool-Aid? Drink it at every occasion you want to drink it at. Yep. It ain't nothing wrong with it. It's your culture. It's your heritage. The music you like to play your music loud in the car? Play it loud. Do whatever you need to do. Our culture has to be celebrated more than what it is right now. And it can't always be viewed as something derogatory.
I'm proud that I was born as an African American. We have contributed to the America in great ways of experiments, all the things that we just assume we're here all the time. They were created by black folks. But we have done a whole lot in this nation, and it's we've gone through the slavery, we've gone through the injustice and inequality, but God has been with us, that whatever was put on us, we have risen.
Yes.
We have been victorious. I know they didn't want us to ice skate. They didn't want us to play tennis.
Right.
But we've overcome it all. They didn't want us to play football, basketball. We would track. Anything that was just put before us as a challenge to you can't do this. That's exactly what we did. We overcame it. Hallelujah. And we're still overcoming.
That's
and
right.
I just thank God for that.
When it comes to our history and knowing our history, it should be celebrated. However, if it is not remembered, it will be repeated.
Wow.
And I'm a bit saddened at some of the things that I see today. As I'm leaving in the latter autumn of my existence, kind of pressing real hard on my winter, it saddens me. Some things we've lost, in my opinion, as a culture and as a people. Respect is dead. When I came along, an adult spoke to me. My mama said, "You got to put a handle on it." Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
No, sir. But now, no. And if we don't get some of that back, I mean, you don't have to say ma'am and sir, but if we don't get the respect back,
right?
If we don't get the honor back, when I grew up, boys didn't call girls some of the things they call them now.
Right.
I'll just put it like that. If we don't get that back, nobody took that from us. We're the ones that advocated from using it. If we don't get the respect back, if we don't learn to appreciate where we come from and the strong shoulders we stand on, then I fear a day may come when we fall.
Wow.
I will also tell them to learn a little bit of their history so they don't have to repeat it. Learn a little bit of what happened so you won't give up your freedom so quickly. I would say, determine what values you have or what you value and stand with that and stick with that, because we're depending on you to hold on to the things that were accomplished that cost so many blacks so many years ago such hardships. So I would say that take more pride, look at your history, watch your language, and develop values and morals that you can stand on. I would say draw close to the Lord. I would say Listen to his voice. Give your life to him. And he'll strengthen you in more ways than you could ever imagine. Ever imagine.
To be able to sit and talk with people who have lived through the darkest parts of America's history has been a very eye-opening experience for me personally. I think that this is an important concept for us to grasp because one day they won't be around to tell us about the past. We'll be creating a new past for the people to come up behind us. I'm grateful for this moment. I'm grateful for the opportunity, and I'm grateful for the chance to be able to learn something I perhaps never would have known. This Black History Month, remember your roots, understand them, and grow from them. These people are truly our roots. Remember, educate, celebrate. Black History Month 2020. Remember, we have a vision, and we will follow through with it.